technologies to improve the environmental, lessen the environmental impact, so that we do produce all the energy possible in an environmentally friendly way. The best way to do it is to have those technologies to go after nuclear energy, which is environmentally probably the best there is, because all that comes off is steam. There are roadblocks as far as storage of spent nuclear rods, but those problems can be solved. We have a great opportunity, I think, in production. When we look here in Iowa, the wind production of energy, of electricity, certainly we have problems as far as storage, excess energy that's created by the windmills. I've been working on funding for innovative ideas as far as storage for years and years now. We're moving the ball. We're not there yet. The grid is a huge issue as far as this country to be able to move that electricity produced here in Iowa from the windmills to more urban areas where it could be used. But there's a lot of things we can do. We do not have to compromise the environment to have adequate supplies of electricity and energy in this country.
If you could reverse one energy-related policy in the last 3 years, what would that be?
Well, one.
Which one?
The Keystone Pipeline is just absolutely an outrage, because that is something ready to go today. I can't also mention permitting on federal lands for exploration that would greatly increase our production of energy in this country. I only mentioned that.
Congressman Latham, what are your views on domestic energy production and the role that it plays in our economic recovery?
Well, I think I probably touched on it earlier, but having affordable supplies of energy is absolutely critical for this country, and there is no reason that we can't have that today. I mean, it is very frustrating 10 years ago when we talked about expanding exploration domestically here, onshore and offshore, that we could dramatically increase our supply of oil so that we could have an adequate supply of gasoline. People said, well, that won't go into effect for 10 years. Here we are 10 years later, and we're still in the same situation. It is simply wrong. But we've got to start today. We should have started 10 years ago. We should have started 30, 40 years ago to have an energy policy in this country. It's not only about economics, it's about our national security. And I still go back to seeing the men and women go off overseas, fighting in an area that we should not be nearly as engaged in if, in fact, we were not so dependent upon that region for energy. But it has a huge economic impact, and it can have such a positive impact as far as the federal deficit is concerned, as far as exploration. The royalties, again, would have an enormous impact on the wealth and prosperity of this country.
What can the government do? Yes.
Did Leonard drink out of this one?
I think I did.
It's got to be good.
What can the government do to promote solar energy research and production in Iowa?
I think there are, we can fund research. I think is the best way to do it. Quite honestly, if you're looking at it industry-wide as far as incentives, that's fine. But to pick individual companies to support, I think we've seen what happened with Cylinder and things like that. That's not the way to go. But to have actual research into solar, into all of the different sort of types of energy is the way to go. And that's where I get back again. If we had the royalties off energy production, we would have the resources to be able to do the kind of research that's needed to advance renewable very clean energy sources.
Last question, and I'm going to preface that before I ask you this as well. I know some of you had handed me some questions while I was sitting at the table, and they were all great questions, but we did want to keep the number of questions the same, and in the context of time, this will be the last question. Why is it important to develop further domestic sources of oil?
Well, not to be redundant, but it is an economic security issue for the United States of America. It is a for national security issue. It is something that we could be doing today. Again, we should have been doing decades ago to actually have energy independence in this country. And think about what that would mean as far as jobs in this country, about the cost of energy, the impact that that would have on my kids and their family, your kids and your family. I mean, this country is not in good shape today. People are hurting out there. Energy costs come right off the top of their discretionary income. It has a real impact on real people, real Americans. And that's why we've got to go after every source of energy here in the United States. It's the right thing to do, not only for economically here, for our national security overseas. It is simply the right thing to do for the kids and grandkids. We've got to do it smart. We've got to do it in an environmentally friendly way. We know how to do that. We can have a very, very bright future in this country if, in fact, we simply go ahead and work together to make that bright future. So, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for being here today. And I want to echo what we said to Congressman Boswell, too. Thank you for your service in Washington, D.C. On behalf of all of us here in Iowa. You do a great job, and we appreciate it tremendously. As Congressman Latham is leaving the room, I will take this opportunity to once again thank the Iowa Association of Business and Industry and the Iowa State Building and Construction Trades Council for co-sponsoring the event. And of course, a big thank you to the Iowa Energy Forum for...
Well, I think we've got, I mentioned that we have to bring up, invest in everything. All of the, all the above, which they have now usurped, which we used to talk about all the time. But that's part of the overall energy, comprehensive energy plan that we should have.
Did you ask them not to ask you about it because they asked Congress?
I had no idea what they were going to ask me about.
So do you support extension of the tax credit?
Sure, absolutely.
Did you bring it up with Romney today? You said you wanted to talk to educate him about this.
We had a conversation actually last evening, and so a very short discussion today. I mean, he understands it. Now, his point, I'll let him explain his point, I guess. I just think that, the industry understands that this is not going to go on forever, that they're in favor of a phase out over time. And that's, I think, what we need to be looking at, to do what the industry wants. And that's, he was talking about the fact that, it doesn't go away. The ones that are in place have the benefit for another 10 years. But it's a difference. We're not going to agree on everything.
Do you think it was wrong for him today not to bring it up?
From my understanding, he did mention wind as far as in his comments this morning.
He mentioned wind is a good thing for the production tax credit. When McCain would come here, he said, I don't like the ethanol tax break. I'm not afraid to say it in Iowa. Romney miss an opportunity to make it clear to Iowans that he's not
That
changing
wasn't
his
the
mind?
primary, from my understanding, I could not stay, I did not hear his speech this morning. They had other obligations, so I didn't hear his speech, basically. I just heard it on the radio Iowa.
What do you think are the main differences in energy policy between you?
Well, he voted for cap and trade. I mean, and was signed on early in 2007 for cap and trade with Henry Waxman, which would be devastating to us in Iowa. 20 to 25% increase in utility costs as far as electricity, 50 cents a gallon in gasoline, 50 cents a gallon on diesel, dramatically increase the cost of fertilizer. Here in Iowa, it would be devastating, and he supported it.
The other main differences that you'll be campaigning on that differentiate yourself from your
I mean, I didn't hear what he said today, but he basically, his cap and trade, that whole agenda, he supported as far as the Keystone Pipeline. That is something that is extremely important, that is to be done immediately for our energy independence here in this country. And the fact of the matter is, if that oil doesn't come to the U.S., it's going to be shipped to the West Coast and go to China. That's a major difference also. Very good. Thank you, guys. Good.